Hello, everybody. This is James Diboe, Discovering, dedicated to original peoples. As always, we've got a special edition for Black History Month. I call it Original Peoples Month. And we've got a guest who's been on before. He's back on again, Mr. Curtis Watts. How you doing, my brother?
Yeah, man. Safe, bro.
Yeah, good anyway. I hope life's good anyway. Approaching
Yeah, well,
October.
it's manageable. That's all you can really ask for most of the time, and you know what I mean.
That's
But
it
yeah,
now.
it's good, man. I can't, we're blessed in it. You know what I'm
That
saying?
that's it. Anyway, so anything? You got anything going on for the Black History Month yourself? Anything you're involved in? I know you're always active all year round anyway.
Yeah,
So anything coming up that you'd like to speak on?
yeah. It is I can't remember what date this is on the Ubuntu group. The Ubuntu group who mainly hosted by the Caribbean Centre.
Oh yeah,
Uh, that's
yeah,
that's ongoing. I mean, I couldn't say we've got plans. And it'd be nice to see you there sometimes. You went to the event thing, innit? But it'd be
yeah,
nice to
yeah,
it's some of the Sunday things that they do. I haven't been to them. I'm not being a hypocrite here, bro. I haven't been to them myself. Do you know what I'm saying? For a while. But
yeah,
when events on, when he put that main events on, I've done the drum circle, the African drum circle, and all that.
yeah. It's just the
So
timing of it. Like I'm not just like a Monday to Friday person. I'm just like active most days. I
yeah,
don't really. But what I can do though, I'll get down there. Of course, I mean, I'm into
yeah.
my spirituality. You know,
Mm,
connecting with the ancestors, and
yeah.
So yeah, so I know last time we were speaking to you anyway, you're speaking about you're known for being playing the African drums, or is we call it the djembes,
Yeah, the djembe, man. Yeah,
the
djembe.
djembe, yeah. So when did you first learn this? I remember backtracking, you mentioned about a guy named Francisco,
Yeah, yeah.
Chilean
Well,
guys or something. They were
yeah,
influence on you or something.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I've got to big up Tony Morgan, of course. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh
From the
yeah.
lot and the whole the Lardo, not just the crew, like the beings that they are, but the concept itself. Because I think
Okay.
I told you this, like the school that I was in at the time, St. Saviour's, which is where the women's hospital is now. That school had a riot. Like I was only 8 then. I was like just nearly 8, and but like the older kids had staged this riot in 81. Just you get me? Like
Wow.
yeah, just that the riot was like coming to an end. The kids in the school now you're seeing this thing on TikTok and all that in it at the moment where the
No.
kids have been, yeah, like most of this year the kids have been in most of the secondary schools. The kids have been like rebelling, and then because it's on social media and people are getting likes and getting attention, they like have competing against each other, like where they're setting things on fire, they're throwing things at the teachers and all this. I mean, I missed this, but I came across it a few days ago. I've heard about it. People and a few teachers have told me about it. Not that it happened in their school, but it's obviously something they've been told. But anyway, without just going, because I know we haven't got like lots of time, but our school had a riot, bro. Do you know what I'm saying? And the headmaster he got punched in the chest.
Wow.
I think I don't know if he had a heart attack or something, but he retired there and then on the news at 10. And as you know, I've done a bit of acting and stuff in my time, but the first time I was ever on TV was on the news at 10, bro. Walking out of school with me two little friends, man, Nicola and Paula Fletcher. Hey, if they're listening to this, you know what I mean? Because everybody had a sort of conspiracy theory we were being filmed secretly in school that the day after the riot had happened. So
Okay.
as we're walking out, I've gone. I don't know how I got this intuition. I went, I reckon there's a camera on the roof up there, and lo and behold, 10 o'clock comes, and you see me pointing right where the camera was. You know what I mean? So anyway, this is relevant to what you asked me because one of the things that I just found most impressive was that that's when the Lordo started coming into our school. Now we did have to we had people who were doing drama like plays and things, doing things. It wasn't like they were the first people to come in, but for me personally, that was really, really like a monumental moment for me. Probably I'll speak on behalf of Lawrence because I know he won't deny, Lawrence Westcott because he was in the same school, so we'll know he'll have a good memory of that because he's got a good memory. You get me? And
Crazy
that was the first
memories.
time. Yeah,
Crazy
that was
memory. Yeah.
the first time like that. I would say I would speak for most of us. I wouldn't say all of us, but I'd say 90% of the kids in these classes, man didn't have exposure to African music, African folklore, African dance, African philosophy. Do you know what I'm saying? And of course, just the entertainment elements of it too. And
Oh,
so
interesting.
they wouldn't let us touch the djembes, you get me? They
Oh,
wouldn't let us have a go with them. Do you know what I'm saying? And
yeah.
again, Tony was there. There was this Scottish guy. He was a white guy, George, very tall guy with big dreadlocks right to his knees. And he used to carry a big djembe. I think he was the first person I saw with one. And then I met, because he was a member of the Lardo as well. You'll see him on the pictures, man. Yeah, he just vanished after a while. But anyway, so people wouldn't let you touch the djembe really, because kids sometimes, man, people expect they're gonna go over and treat it like a toy rather than a sacred instrument. You get me? So, um, it's not like it wasn't out to being mean, but it was just the way it was. So, fast forward a good like double the age I was then. I met Francisco in the Unity Theatre, Francisco Carrasco, and Oscar, his brother, as well, and Francisco was the first person to tell me what it was called, because even though they were doing it, I think they just took for granted. Because when you know something, you think people are just going to know it, but they didn't tell us the name of it. Do you know what I'm saying? So I didn't know what it was called. And he said, oh, it's called a djembe. I had seen him, like I said. So he was the first person to let me have a go. And within like 3 years, by the time I was like 18, 19, I was playing, we were doing sort of little gigs in town, especially like fundraisers for things and stuff like charities. And we were at the trade union centre. We do gigs in there, all like community fundraisers, charity fundraisers, and just anything where we get the chance to play. And I was started off playing a different drum, to be fair. Some people call it a dudun, and some people call it a dun dun. You know what I mean? Depending on where you're coming from. It's the one with the skins either end. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
and you hit it with the sticks like that, and you sometimes can attach a cowbell to it and play that at the same time as you're hitting the skins. You get me?
So where did they learn to play the djembes? Was that in Chile, or did they learn when they came to UK?
Well, that's a good question, because even though the congas, yeah,
Yeah.
right, the conga drums, right, which are obviously used for a lot of people, as we know, use them in the city, and that they originated from an African drum too. Now, don't ask me the name of that drum that they originated from, but that was 100%, an African drum. And you ask any musical theorist or whatever from that part of the world, or who are experts in it, will tell you exactly that. Unfortunately, if Oscar or Francisco were here, they'd be able to like fill in the gaps on that one. But so yeah, I was playing that, and then I didn't, again, I didn't know how to use the djembe, how to hit it, nothing. It's a hand drum, as we know, rather than a stick drum. So I just sort of translated a lot of the rhythms I was doing, because sometimes you hit it on the rim, sometimes you hit it on the skin. You know what I mean? And obviously you got the two belt, and like I said, sometimes you can even have little cowbells attached, whatever. So then I just had to sort of like find a way of like hitting it round the edge, hitting it in the center, and then just gradually, I just started learning to get some good tones out of it, and good at you season your hands, like in kung fu and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
after you're doing it for a good long amount of time, you can hit that drum as hard as you want. You can slap a piece of concrete as hard as you want. It will never hit your hand, man, because the bones like rebuild themselves on a microscopic level. You know what I mean? So yeah, so that was interesting, and I've told you before, and we did speak about this before, so I won't go on about it. But then Francisco, being a joker, one day he turned around to me, and I was having a really bad time in my life at the time, and he said to me, "Do you want to go to South Africa?" And sort of like he was grinning, and I was thinking, "Don't mess around with me like that, bro. That's not fair." So I was like, "Of course, I want to go to South Africa, but what are you talking about?" And he said, "Well, there's a project, blah blah blah, and the rest is history." I mean, I've spoken about that on your other podcast, so I don't really want to go on too much about that.
Interesting though, South Africa. I mean, I'm not long come back from there myself, but you've gone at a time in '95. I think you told me last time, was it? Oh, is that correct date?
Absolutely, bro. Yeah, yeah.
So that time to now, there's been massive change, even though you've still got division. I've spoke to some of the people, I interviewed some people out there, and obviously it's better, of course, than what it was, but it's got that division. It's also got that, the land. They've got the European 75% or something of the land ownership. So I mean, like, I listen to a lot of like Julius Malema. Some people are with him, some people are not. Some people see him as like, you fight fire with fire. But at the end of the day, whatever it is, he has a lot of frustration, just like a lot of other Africans and, let's be honest, black people all around the world, from the United States to wherever. Frustration. But at the end of the day, there's no solution if there's the unfairness still going on. But like from the time when you went though, how did you? Because I asked you a little bit last time, but we scratched the surface a bit on it last time. But how did you find it? How was you treated basically when you were there?
How was I treated? Well, okay, so funny thing, this is a bit of a jokey thing, and this is about presumptions, and so I'm really glad to admit it, is that we were watching a lot of videos about during apartheid. Some of it was like very political. It was like showing riots and whatnot, uprisings, conflicts, police brutality on a massive scale, which would be on TV. But these guys, like, I'll just reiterate for those who haven't heard our other one about it, was a guy called Eugene Skeef from South Africa. He was one of the teenagers who used to hang around with Biko, and used to be like a driver because he comes from a family of taxi drivers, as well as, like, they're quite a well-off family in their own sense. Anyway, they're from a place called Marion, just outside of Durban. So Eugene was exiled. This other guy called Tebby Leperi, if there's anybody from South Africa now who's hearing me say this, who loves drums, or anyone from Africa, or anyone who loves African drums and is enthusiastic about it, that guy's like probably right this second touring. He's doing some big jazz concerts or something somewhere in the world, man. Genius. He was our master drummer. He was the one who would put our drum orchestras together and teach us all the rhythms and stuff, as well as Eugene as well. And then we were with a guy called is another one, and people say Becky because it's Bekhi, but they say Beggy. Biggie, the way I have this like Biggie, you know what I mean? Biggie Mseleku, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he was like, I mean, when I met these people, James, right, I've got to tell you that, like, I wasn't in a good place in a lot of ways, emotionally and stuff like that. And even physically, where I was living at the time, I wasn't comfortable with the way most people were behaving. And it was in them days when everyone was acting like, not everyone, but people were acting like clowns, like playing characters out of Menace to Society and Boys in the Hood and all that. And it wasn't, and I could just see right through, and it used to bug the hell out of me. So,
funny how you just met them two movies you've just mentioned. Then I totally can understand why you even mentioned them, because I noticed Boys in the Hood first was the first type of movie. But what was in Boys in the Hood? See, what's the father's name? Lawrence Fishburne, is it?
Yeah. When you talk about gentrification and all that.
Now, his mentality, he basically added the amazing consciousness on that movie. If it weren't for him on there, then it would have just been all gangbanging and that's it. But the way he spoke on that was amazing. But then when you get to Men's Society now, I felt that was going overboard now. And that seemed like the new beginning. I know Boys in the Hood was the beginning, but I felt Men's Society was more ignorant. That's when it was about straight up ignorance. Like, I mean, yeah, great movie, whatever, just to watch as a movie, but it played its part, didn't it? Universally, So,
and even like the horrific scene when the shopkeeper's woman,
the Korean who gets killed. Yeah, it's like overboard.
Sometimes I see people laughing about that, and
yeah.
Again, I'm not going to act all holier than thou, but what I'm saying is that a lot of the time, and when I was a kid, like a teenager and now in my early 20s, I used to like think, why are we laughing now? Why is this funny? Even when Easy first could be in our school, because we went to Glenallen at the boarding school in Wales.
Yeah.
And some people brought the Easy's album back and the first NWA that we ever heard, and people used to blast it all the time. And when he's doing the little skits in between, and he's saying derogatory things to a woman, like pimp type talk, like threatening them, violence, and he's swearing this, swearing that. And then this is the first time any of us, well, I had anyway, ever heard anyone saying the N-word about 1,000 times in one album. Do you know what I'm saying? So that was like, and everyone used to laugh about it. But again, it wasn't like I was a snotty git. Do you know what I mean? And I was a bit nerdy as a kid, but I was still, one of the lads, so to speak. It's just that certain things I used to think were immature. Like, for example, Roxanne Shante and the real Roxanne having a beat. And then other people having a beef, and we saw where that ended in the 90s. It ended up with two deaths. Well, two deaths of prominent deaths and other deaths around them that we'll never even hear about.
Yeah.
And promoting that horrible sort of demonish type of street mentality thing that is, you know, and in the States, okay, fine, if that's what it's becoming, their areas where they've grown up, I understand that. But that was like getting spread globally, and people were finding it more entertaining than philosophical. Like when you just spoke, then you spoke about both those films in a philosophical sense. So when you can talk about it maturely, you can analyze it and see the impact that it did have on us when we were young.
Yeah.
So man, that was something that I used to struggle with because I wanted to fit in, but I'm different. You get me, like yourself, you know what I'm saying? You're just not like everybody else around you, and you're not gonna pretend to be.
Exactly.
And
Be
so
yourself. That's it.
just used to be uncomfortable thinking, oh, why am I the odd one out? Why can't I find this hilarious when some woman's getting shot or slapped or whatever, do you know what I'm saying? And,
funny you mention about the hip hop, for example, because it is 50 years of hip hop. The birthday, I don't know what month it was, but it's this year, anyway, 50 years of hip hop. And going back now, when you mentioned about NWA, that seemed like, I'm not saying New York guys when they were just all conscious, and not necessarily, but it seemed the West Coast took it to another level. It was like another level, even though you did have some people talking about like the Cool G rap, so you had like, but then again, Cool G rap in his early days was actually a lot more conscious. Actually, a lot of them were, but I don't know. Maybe people were also influenced by the West Coast, whereas originally it was the East Coast who started it, and the West Coast would be an influence, but they took it to another level. They couldn't come out exactly and sound the same as New York guys because they would have got told to biting or whatever. But then I felt like when people seen the West Coast growing, that people had to kind of compete. So they had to start coming with all the like Cool G rappers come with Wanted Dead or Alive and Live and Let Die albums and that, you know. But his first album was like Road to Riches. It was a bit more, you know, more lyrical than anything. But I like Cool G rapper. He's definitely a talented person. But 50 years of hip hop, though, I mean, what's your earliest memories of hip hop that you can remember?
Yes, sure. You don't stop and all that kind of thing. And of course, like all the electro things for the body popping and all that and the breakbeat. It reminds me of I wasn't, again, for some reason, man, I wasn't allowed to go down to the stage and ask anyone of a certain age. And they'll tell you what the stage is. It was at the back of the precinct, St. John's. And I literally had this stage down there and everyone was like going and learning how to break dance and that. I remember getting a little piece of lino because that's what everyone was doing and taking it in the house, practice, and everyone was laughing at me, you know what I mean? You know, as you know, D-Fresh and Mervyn and all them.
Yeah.
It was Too Kind, D-Fresh, you know, Ola Bean, all that crew. You know, they just were smashing its head in because they were, especially like if you look at Dennis Braithwaite, like to a say with his popping and that and his isolation and all of that, you know.
He
So
knows true hip hop, proper hip hop from the beginning.
Yeah, man, it was fun. It was fun, Dread, and it was like new. And you'd see the kids on telly doing it, and then you'd mimic it a bit, and you'd mess around with it, and have, you know. And some people got seriously into it, and then, you know, a lot of them man went on to being, well, still to this day, a lot of them are DJs. I don't know why, and we've spoken about this before, but I don't know why people think, right? I always have this argument with people, like it's a light-hearted argument, but it's one nevertheless. Why do people see though that why did they not continue rapping? Nearly everybody I know who took up rap back in the day, the 80s and 90s, stopped. And like I've said before, man, that's the only musical genre I've ever heard of or witnessed where people retire. Because normally artists die, they don't retire.
That's
You know
right,
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You don't just give it a so. And I just, again, I'll have 20 conversations about this exact same thing with different
maybe
people.
the change, maybe because it just evolves like if we look at old style music, like you were saying, and okay, Motown music, it was evolving, but it was still it wasn't about promoting negativity, you know, or other music, and then reggae music, lovely vibe to where, you know, you get that great feeling that, but hip hop just seemed like that was in the beginning, if you look at like what come out of it, even like some people with the Nation of Gods, for example, Rakim, for example, he was a conscious MC when it came out. He was with
So
the Nation of Gods.
can I interject one day then? Because
Yeah,
you know, you had Curtis Blow and all them, and
kids.
all that kind of rap,
Yeah.
and which we used to love, you know, when we were like, that's when I was like 11, 12. But when I heard Paid in Full come on the radio, I think I was 12, bro. My head was blown, bro. Do you know why? Because he was just monotone. And
Mm.
the song's just about walking down the street in your ends and just like thinking about how broke you are and what's going on in your mind about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he was saying he was hungry. You know what I mean? He wants a nice big plate of fish, which is his favorite dish. You know what I mean? Without any
Yeah.
money, it's still a wish. And I heard that, and it's the music from Adeo Mamba Sukai, the B line from that, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Had Afra Hazard in it, who's a Palestinian.
Mm.
Remember that
Oh,
little thing
yeah. Yeah.
in Nauru? Yeah.
I thought it was Indian music or something like with
Nah,
that
man,
in the
she's
background.
Palestinian,
Oh, was it?
bro.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then then that track came out here in the Top of the Pops, man. It was in Top of the Pops for a bit on the back of it.
Wow.
So she made some dough off it with the family and that. Hats off, you know what I mean, to that one. So I just was obsessed with that track, bro. It was the first rap I ever memorized. It was just one verse in it.
It's dead
And
easy to
so
memorize. That it's so it's easy. Like it's just everything just fits. It's like even though you
yeah.
put a jigsaw together, that type of song just fitted like a jigsaw. Like I don't know anybody who didn't like that song. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was amazing, man. Serious.
Big
I was
Daddy. Then you got your Big Daddy Kane, that style, KRS
yeah,
One.
man.
You know, Slick Ricky from the UK as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Slick
know.
Rick.
Yeah, he still
Mm,
retained his accent even when he got out of prison, and you know,
yeah,
he made
yeah.
that album out a few years back, wasn't it?
Then
Like
I mean,
19 or
and then
something.
also guys from the South, who like the Ghetto Boy Scarface, for example. Now, Scarface remind me of like he was totally accepted into the culture, whether or not he was from down south or
Mm.
because I noticed Scarface he did a song with Ice Cube and Cool G Rap at the time, and that was East, West, South. So now, if you see that happening now, they were the first to do that. East,
Yeah.
West, South, all on one song together. Actually, Cool G
Mhm.
Rap's album, it was one, and Bushwick Bill's on it as well.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So then you know you get to the Biggies, the Nas, the
Mm.
Tupacs, Wu Tang's in it, Mob Deeps, and oh, you got like
You know, you got
oh,
to throw in there too. I'd say, like when you say the South, you got obviously there's Outkast.
yeah,
In the middle of all that, and then that mid '90s, they just jumped in. All the players get the players ball. You know what I mean?
yeah,
That was the first hit, in it. And
yeah,
then you had Master P and the whole No Limit Soldiers movement then from the South, innit? And
yeah.
they just came in. Wasn't he the richest rapper at one point
At
in
one
the
point,
world?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and he was,
His
yeah.
label, he had like he fed a
Actually,
lot of people. He had like a lot of people, and I think also what helps you though is when you have support and loyalty from your
mm,
team, because not all New York guys can say they had that. Not all the West Coast guys. It seemed like the South. Maybe it's down to the environment of the South and the racism that they were suffering, knowing that they've got to be in unity more so. Now, nowadays, obviously, things just change and change. But I felt the
yeah.
South were like the last of an era to like when I say consciousness, not all of them were conscious, but they knew about sticking together more so. That's how I'd put it.
Yeah, man. It was a time of enterprise, wasn't it? For black
Yeah,
communities. And you could say that by the point we're talking about now, that's gone global by that time, hasn't it? It's all gone global. And then
totally.
the beefs again, like I've never really been interested in beefs now. Don't get me wrong, when people were dissing each other, sometimes the lyrics are a bit funny, roasting
Yeah.
each other, all that. But when it's getting physical on the street, I
Oh
mean,
yeah, yeah.
you wouldn't
It's
let your
not.
kids you wouldn't let your kids act like that. So that's where I just had a cut-off point again. I'm not a snotty git, but at the same time, it's more what's the philosophical angle on this of
Yeah.
like progress, because you can talk about money all day,
I
but
didn't mind
money.
the I didn't mind the battle with Cannabis and LL Cool J because that
Oh
was
yeah,
like there was some good lyrics and it made LL actually come back where like he's kind of not fading out because he's like old school, but then it's like Cannabis was so this new guy hungry and was like a scientist with his lyrics. So
Yeah, it
LL
was.
just come back to this thing, you know. I thought Cannabis won, but that's just
But
like
don't forget that. What did he do though after that? Do you know what he
do
did next? His next move was
which
when
Cannabis or LL?
Cannabis, man.
Oh, after the second round knockout.
He started something with DMX, didn't he?
Oh,
Started
DMX,
a
yeah,
little tet thing,
yeah,
with DMX, man. You know what I mean? That was
very
in New York
competitive.
then. I got
Yeah.
a bootleg of it. I got a bootleg of that whole dissing match that they had, man. I think it's
Mm.
probably dated now, unfortunately, with the old technology.
Yeah.
It was on CD
Nas
and the
and
boot.
Jay-Z, I mean, I felt Nas decapitated him, but it was a personal, it got personal, not personal like something happened, but like Jay-Z speaking about man's baby mother, and then Nas just melt. I felt he melted them on that ether, though. Do you know what I'm saying? And when I hear the name ether, you know what I'm thinking about ether? I'm thinking like IFA,
Yeah,
ether, and which
yeah,
later on he spoke on an interview about that
mm,
ether, where it's like he called on the ancestors to come and deal with this guy now. Do you know what I mean? Because Jay-Z was his sales were going up, his popularity was growing. Because when
yeah,
you look back at the Tupac Biggie, Jigga was below them, like sales wise, and we weren't considered no king in New York or nothing like that. But
yeah.
then it brought Nas back, and then he just took the crown back. And
Mm,
then even like, I mean, I consider Nas as like my number one rapper.
mm,
And Tupac, okay, he's like, I've considered him the best songwriter. Biggie, he's just got like an amazing lyrics and his humor and
mm.
a whole lot of things with Biggie. He can make people move, dance in a club. There's a whole lot Biggie can do, isn't it? You know,
Mm,
Wu
mm.
Tang Clan. What do you think of the Wu
Yeah.
Tang on
Oh,
that conscious level? Do you know what I'm saying? All different nine guys.
you know what? I don't even know what to say about Wu-Tang because they were,
Special.
again, and they just, but let's just have a little in between all this. Like, there's like, say, 94 now, right?
Yeah,
What we have mentioned is, remember Das Effect coming out the sewer? Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? The way they come up from the manhole in the videos and that, like they lived in the sewer like Ninja Turtles, man. And it
yeah,
was like it was a time of like concept rappers that people
yeah,
kind of forget. You don't forget them wholly in your mind, but you just like because of all the ones who stood out later on, and like you're saying, Biggie, Tupac, Busta Rhymes, Jay-Z, all
what's
the ones who
that?
were
Mm,
successful, you get me, except the ones who popped the clogs, you get me, but
yeah,
rest the soul, you know what I mean? But yeah, I just think there was all that, like it was people were experimenting with that being grimy, but not in your mentality, having fun with it, diggity
yeah,
this,
yeah.
diggity that. They
Too
weren't taking themselves
serious.
seriously, you know what I mean? And that's what I loved about Wu-Tang, because even when you listen to them freestyling, it was fun. You could listen to them for like 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever, if anyone had the tape. So I remember Ridgeman, Ridgeman, Wayne Goodrich, went over to New York. He went, I think it was a few months or something before I went. No, it was a couple of years before I went. And he came back with some nice tapes, you know what I mean? There was this sick one where they were going Shaolin, and I'd never heard this beat before. And there was just this beat that was going on, man, a bit reggae-ish sort of, but a sick, like dark bass line. And the way they went on over that, man, just freestyling, I'd never heard anything like it.
Mm-hmm.
And then remember when the BBC and Westwood sort of cornered the market on like who can come and play, because what they do was they refused, they threatened Busta Rhymes with a visa if he would have went to, was it what was the other one?
Is
He had
he
to speak.
Jamaican, Busta Rhymes? Jamaican, is he, or is he born
I'm
Jamaica?
not sure, because he has a go, doesn't he, with the accent and that and stuff, but I don't know if he's just mucking about because don't know, man, because you've got like,
Maybe his
you know,
parents were.
maybe,
Maybe
yeah, I
good,
don't really
good.
know anything about him in that way, except what was he was leaders of the new school, wasn't it? That's
Yeah.
who, even when you listen to his verse in that though, man, that's a verse that, do you know what I mean?
Buster's heavy. He was
Yeah, yeah.
underrated. Buster though. I think he's very underrated
Well, I mean, I
artist.
think he gets enough respect because he's one of them that keeps himself to himself, and I like them man
Mm,
who do that because you don't really know much about him, like you don't know anything about his personal
yeah.
business, or who he's dating or anything silly like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
With it, man.
he
And I saw
does.
him doing a track with. Oh no, I was watching that. Remember when he did the track with Janet Jackson, that weird video where he says it's like a robot type thing and all he's doing all.
Yeah,
Yeah, man. So then it was that at that point, it was all creeping into the pop world. Then it was like good overlap, which was good.
the
And there's
way
some
he
people,
did it though, the way Buster did it, it was like
mm,
very acceptable. I think it was
yeah,
more acceptable, like where people can say, "Oh yeah, you're trying to sell out and that," but Buster is a natural entertainer. He's
very, yeah,
very creative. He cover all different areas in rap. You know, where he can do a whole lot. He's not just about I'm just a lyricist. He's got the flow. He's got like knowledge.
yeah.
He can do it all. Basically, he can make you laugh,
I
entertain.
mean, but I would always say though, he is more of a style rapper. Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean? He's got no substance, but he is more of a style rapper because you'd listen, you'd hear, you'd someone would say this is Busta Rhymes' new track, you know what I mean? And you'd
yeah,
be waiting, thinking, how's he gonna flow in this one? Because his flow is like almost impossible sometimes. Do you know what
yeah,
I mean? It's Guinness Book of Records type stuff. I know there's Twister as well. But like when you look at Buster, he'd throw jokes in, he'd throw a little bit of knowledge in, all in the one track sometimes, you know what I'm saying? In a
yeah,
few bars. And then you're thinking, boy, how's man, did he breathe during that whole track? But you're thinking
yeah.
things like, I'll never be able to do it. Made you feel bad. You'd be like, I could never rap like that, man. That's too hard. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So, and
it would be hard to mimic. Where some people like to copy styles, but Buster's
yeah,
style, I don't think anyone could actually copy his style to completely. It's too, like you're saying, he had one song where he's saying about so many different things in there,
yeah.
entertainment, knowledge, all sorts is in there. You know, that's
Mm.
why I do give him credit, Buster Rhymes. What do you think of like one of the old school rappers like Melly Mel? Because I've been watching a lot of his interviews lately, and he's explaining about in the beginning of hip hop, a lot of these
Yeah,
guys wouldn't have made it. They couldn't come out. And
yeah,
he said also that if they would have been talking that same gangster stuff back in 81 or something when he was around, he
mm.
said that someone in the crowd or would have done something. And then he said there's something called the shout out. The shout
Mm.
out, you know, where everyone shouts out the people. He said the
Yeah,
shout out come from a real gangster who's not a rapper that wants to get near the rapper, and he says, "You better shout me out," and he like deal pistol at you or something like
yeah.
that. So he was
Okay.
saying that's where the shout out come from. So
Mm.
I can see how serious Melly Mel is, where at that time you couldn't just come out with all them lyrics and that. He said only
Mm.
a few rappers who were around would be able to make it in his time. He said Rakim would have made it and Big Daddy Kane would have made it, but most of these other guys wouldn't have made it. I mean, I take that serious, like what Melly Mel says, because
Mm.
people come out later on, they can chat about this, chat about that. But in reality, he looks at it as like unfair for him
Yeah.
that he couldn't do that because you wouldn't be allowed to do it. The crowd or the listeners would take you serious if you're chatting
Yeah.
that crazy stuff at that time, you know.
Well, I think that's probably why they made. Remember CB4 with Chris Rock? Remember
Ah,
that?
yeah,
Yeah, that was a
boss
clever.
movie.
It was funny, but it was clever too at the same time because it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like a political commentary. You know, it was satire, wasn't it? Do you know what I mean? And the fact the guy's name was Gusto, wasn't it? And he went to prison, and
that's
so
it.
Chris had called himself MC Gusto, and good.
Yeah,
That's why he was gunning for him because he took the gangster's name in it, and it was
yeah,
good to see that split between rap and gangster because that's when it was merging, and then they
that's it.
separated it again with that movie. And I
Yeah,
thought that was
yeah,
clever. When you look back now, especially as older now and in our experience and everything, that was clever because they did like show you how ridiculous it is to say that a musical genre has to be tied heavily with crime and
that's
so,
it.
you know what I'm saying? And I think we all needed that. And the way, if that was serious and a big thesis, we wouldn't have taken any notice. But the fact it was funny and silly, you know what I mean? In a lot of ways, it was a good film. It was a good film, you know what I mean?
But
CB. I'd love to
yeah,
watch
yeah,
that now.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a really good movie that, and like you can learn from them movies as well. You know.
So what? So where you've done some MCing in it?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I used to have.
Right.
I haven't done that
So
for a good while, but
when did you first like go? Oh yeah, man, I'm gonna like have a go myself at this. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna jump on it.
going back to about 2001 or something like that. I
Uh,
think I was about 20 or around about that. And basically, I was inspired by a man like Nas, Tupac, Biggie, and also some old school rappers like G Rap
mm,
and But my style was very deep. I didn't want to come out. It was just about, I used to rap a lot about African history, a lot about indigenous peoples. I rap a lot of even makeup songs. Like I was lost in the Amazon one time and I had to get out and all my stories and like
Wow.
speaking on being in another dimensional world and like all sorts of, it was just trying to be as much creative as possible, very
Mm.
creative. Maybe in the future, I did say in the future I would like to come out with something, maybe an album or something like that. Because that's what I used to do. I was about it. I wasn't just a guy just doing a track. I used to like write on the whole albums and stuff, you know what I mean? But it's see, nowadays it's like you've got to, it's like a reinventing. Sometimes you've got to keep evolving, but you can't. It's you don't want to go into the new trends, but at the
Yeah.
same time, you've got to stay relevant and not to sound outdated. But if you're a true artist, you can continue the movement. You can
Mm.
continue it, but do it in a way where it's updated. You know, because
Yeah.
I don't want to like we can't start rapping like within the 70s. I'm not the 70s, like the 80s or the 90s.
Mm.
It's just people don't relate to these days to them things, do they? I love the 90s hip hop and the 80s hip hop. You know,
Yeah.
what about
Yeah.
yourself? When's the last time you wrote some lyrics yourself or
Um,
freestyle, whatever?
yeah, I'm always writing little bits of lyrics here and there, you know what I mean? I'm wanting to put some down soon so you can get round here at some point, you know what I mean? I'm gonna sort my rooms out, man, and like put everything, because now knowing things are in a room that they shouldn't be in, and then when you go in that room, the stuff that should be in there is in there. So I need
Yeah.
to set more like my studio set up properly and all that kind of thing. It's not gonna be like a big professional studio, but whatever I can grab hold of with what I've got. I'm gonna put that together. And we should just like have some jams in that, man. Because like I said, I know the lads from me old crew and that they'd love to come and do a little bit of rap. They wouldn't say it if you asked them now, but if they were here and you just had the mic there, you couldn't resist. Couldn't resist, man.
Well, we're coming
Um,
there. We're coming there to the end, though. But yeah,
yeah.
I'm sure we can link up and make that happen anyway. Some positive
Mm.
raps, you know. But I want to thank you very much, Curtis, James Diboe, and Discovery, dedicated to original peoples. And yeah, we will link up and do some, some positivity. Peace,
Yeah.
my brother.
Right,
We
peace, bro.
we do this again. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, man.
definitely positive rap.